Okay, we have a quorum here, so let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, my name is Uche Maple, and I am the founder of Women Helping Women Succeed. I am also an engineering manager, John Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. And today I'm just so excited because we have Mr. Kevin Goins with us today. And Kevin, I met him last year at a conference. And let me tell you, Kevin's personality in itself stands out above all. Okay, I was going to a pretty much like a speaking event, and when I spoke, and Kevin was providing me feedback, and it was just great. So much so that even after the event, I went and talked to him. I was like, "Hey, I really can't do what you told me to do because I'm an engineer." And he was like, "Yeah, and." Make sure that you spread your wings and be your authentic self. So I just want to say, Kevin, welcome. Thank you for attending today. And um, pretty much, I appreciate this. And everyone that's on today, get out your pencils, get out your notebook, because this is going to be a very informative, engaging, and it's going to be a lot of golden nuggets that are dropped that you're going to be able to take away with you and implement and keep moving forward. Yes, yes. I've applied. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So can everyone, first of all, hear us? Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. Can everyone hear Kevin? Kevin, say something.
Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Is that not good?
Probably raise up your volume.
Let's see. Can you hear me now? All righty.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So for those of you who may not know Kevin, can you just really give us a brief overview of who you are and what inspired you to start owning your brilliance?
Oh wow. What I thank you first of all, thank you so much for putting this together. I remember meeting you and I thought to myself, as far as me, I'm just a man who I've always kind of known that this was part of my journey, just being a speaker and talking to people and helping. And even though now I'm helping people, like I do some coaching, I even have a membership group helping people. It wasn't always like this, if I could truly be real. Um, when I started on my journey, I remember you had the Huxtables, you had the Brady Bunch, the Popular Kids, and then there was Kevin. So I was not one of those in that bunch, and I didn't quite understand why. People like me at 9 years old with this, I had a weird photographic memory and kind of needed a little surgery on my back. I kind of had scoliosis. Wasn't exactly well received. So the kids made sure they let me know about that. So much so I was like, man, God, they keep saying you're good, but for some reason they're not being good to me. So I remember, I remember sometimes wondering, is this real? I told my mom, she was the only person on the earth I ever told, I'm gonna be a speaker, mom, I think. But when I got to college and the time came, she says, Kevin, are you going to be the speaker or are you going into healthcare? And when I looked back over my life, and again, I didn't really like my past per se. Y'all know how it is. I decided to do the same thing and say, I'll take the guaranteed salary, please, with the photographic memory. So I found myself walking through life using part of the skills and talents that I had, but now when I look back, I was doing it just to be safe, just to be comfortable. But when I started really asking myself, is this who you really want to be? The more I began to walk through life, I just kept saying, look again, look again. And now I'm a guy who not only is in the healthcare part time, but it's the most beautiful thing of all is becoming all of me, helping other people, inspiring them to become all of them as well. So what I once thought was bad actually probably was the best thing that could have ever happened.
Very good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So pretty much, so everyone, just so that we can make sure we're engaged, please in chat, tell us where you're from, where you're coming from, what part of the United States that you live. And that way we are definitely want to make sure we give a shout out because I'm in Maryland. Kevin, you're in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. So give a shout out of where you are. And again, make sure Sacramento, Plano. Okay. That's why I used to live in Plano. That's John. So that's good. So again, welcome everyone that's coming on. And Kevin just gave us a really great introduction of who he is and how he got into the mindset of owning your own brilliance. And we're going to go from there. So any questions that you have, please put in chat and we'll be answering real time. And in addition to that, to make sure that we are also keeping everyone more engaged, I'll definitely be unmuting when we ask questions. Everyone has about 60 seconds on how they want to respond, and we'll go from there. Yes, yes? All right. So, second things. Okay, so you talked about how owning your brilliance and how you came to that. But when you started this platform, what was your inspiration? Because something had to be that spark for you to say, I am okay now for me to start this.
Yeah, I found myself in a conference. In fact, John Checkey's at the top. He and I went to a whole lot of conferences together. We were in Toastmasters, so I was always at either Anthony Robbins or I was at Susie Orman. Somewhere I'm in somebody's conference because I knew who I was, but I was tap dancing with purpose. Anybody ever done it before where you know you should be doing something, but you're not all the way in. And so sometimes you're halfway out. And that's kind of what I was doing. So I found myself in speaking organizations. I found myself in conferences, but it was not enough because I kept looking. And sometimes, have you ever found that when you're one of the people, the smartest people in the room, and you're already kind of at the top, but it's still not enough, you need to find a bigger room. So that's kind of what happened. As I went from conference to conference, I didn't realize it, but inside, I was actually looking for somebody who could really show me what it could look like if I truly decided to be all of me. And I found myself at a Lisa Nichols conference and I saw somebody. I've heard the word self actualize. You guys may have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Well, at the very top, I mean, not only do they have at the bottom food, water, shelter, belonging, loving, at the very top, they talked about being self actualized. And I remember as a kid, I kept saying, what is that? And then when I read the definition, I kept saying, who could really do something like that? Who could be so comfortable with all their brilliance, all their flaws? Who could be just out in front of the world, behind the scenes, and still be themselves? And I didn't know how to do that because, again, with my background being shy, being bullied as a kid, and not always believing God was always my friend. And I'm going, life, why did this happen to me? With that mindset, I couldn't understand how could self-actualize be. But when I went to that conference and I saw somebody on the stage, it resurrected my dreams. And the career that I put a white jacket on top of, all of a sudden the dreams just began coming alive. And I realized, wait a minute. I mean, this is a cool career, but what if I were to bet on me? What if I were to take a step in that direction? Because I saw somebody doing it and I saw them on fire. And inside, let me tell you what my dream said. Kevin, that could have been you. And I'm going, wait, what do you mean? And I saw somebody walking across stage and everything she was doing, none of it seemed new to me. All of it seemed familiar. And I asked myself, what if you dare to be seen? And so that kind of sparked something in me. And from there, the rest was history.
That's amazing. Because so you saw someone who was doing or living of what you knew you could do, but you may have denied yourself early on from doing that because of fear.
Yep, we have a tendency when something happens to us or we perceive it that way, we can hide, we run, we go, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this is for me. And that actually happened. Show of hands, anybody ever done that before where sometimes life has been so hard, it just kind of jolted you in a way that it knocked the air out. And just for a moment, we believe, well, maybe not that direction. And that's what happened. So I was thinking all those years life was happening to me, but it never dawned on me. I never took a breath and said, could it be possible that life is happening for you? And if you truly trust it, one day it could be revealed. I'm sorry, I didn't believe that, especially at such a young age. I mean, really? I'm like, no, it ain't. Let me just go find a way where I could just go do me. But I didn't realize if I would have really held out and asked a better question, life could give me a different answer.
What advice would you give people? Because so I'm how many of us have experienced where when earlier on, we had a mission or a purpose and we were very passionate about it, but we shied away from it for whatever reason. And thank you, Pat. Yes, yes, yes. But how do you get that initiative or removal of anxiety of whatever it is to push through? Like what was it that you said, this is it, this is the time right now?
Well, I can tell you now. In fact, John Checky was there, but in spirit. I remember when I saw this lady, she had a training right after, and I had a check. I said, John, my checkbook is hot. Help me, help me. I don't know if I'm gonna make the wrong decision or not. And I was like, I'm so excited, and I really want to go to this training, but I don't want to invest in the wrong thing. And I'm not quite sure if this is right. And I'll never forget what John told me, paraphrase, but he basically said, Kevin, I've never heard you this excited before, not in this way. You never really asked me for anything as far as the money. He's my financial advisor, by the way, but also my mentor. He and I went to the same Toastmasters for, God kids, about 5 years straight. So I've known him for a very long time. We walked around lakes and as he's giving me advice. And he took me on his wing as kind of like a father figure that I needed when it comes to finances and mentorship and just kind of how to make decisions. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got a hot check and I'm ready to write this check now. I really want to go because my purpose it was hopping inside of my heart. And he said, if you do this, just make sure you're going to pay it back. We're not going to touch your investments. You're going to write that check, but you're going to pay it back. But I like what I hear. And so when I thought he was going to hold me back, the person I respected began to listen to purpose and even told me, I go to masterminds. I go to places where I invest in myself and I'm hearing if that's for you. So if it's right for you, go. And when I heard that, Uche, that was the first time what I had to do was this, because I want you to see, I didn't just walk up on this yesterday. I knew this when I was 15. But I put a white jacket on top of purpose at 18, and then I walked through life eyes wide shut for a couple of decades. So when I heard that question again, now that I see this lady on stage doing what I've known that I whispered in my mom's ear, what happened honestly was this. I just heard life saying, Kevin, you've got a choice again. I told you this at 18. Now I'm rolling the tape around again 20 years later, and I'm going to ask you this question. Will you bet on you? Will you dare to be all of you? Which means you now have to be seen. You got to get out of your way and be heard. And oh, by the way, it may bring other people with you. Are you okay with this? So I took the deepest breath and said, if I do this, it kind of took a lot of the years took ambition out of the way. The years took, oh, let me be seen and get on stage, took all of that out of the way. And what the years did was chipped away a lot of ego and only left purposing, I'll do this only if you're with me. I'll take my story, which I don't want to do, because I don't know anybody who want to ever say, hi, I was bullied as a kid, and let me share this with the world. No, who wants to do that? But I said, I will only do that if you're with me. And I will serve this purpose the best way I can. I don't know, upside down, straight, whatever it looks like. Just let me sleep and let me have peace. So when I began my journey, really, it was not to say, oh, let me create Owning Your Brilliance and the Brilliance Leadership Academy and coach people and have memberships. My dream kind of started because I really wanted to have peace in my heart and I wanted to go to sleep without I constantly feel like I'm being nagged by purpose going, get up, Kevin, get up. When are you going to do it? So that's when it happened for me.
It's interesting. You said something metaphorically that I thought was beautifully said. You said, I put a white jacket on top of my purpose at 18. I mean, how many of us have done that before, right? Because, that was just beautifully said. And I don't know, how many of you guys are familiar with the book, Napoleon Hill, The Secrets to Success? How many of you guys have read that? Well, in the story, he talks about how he was challenged to write a book about people living their best lives. And he did everything. He was doing everything, but he was challenged by Carnegie Mellon, and he did everything besides that. And he said it was something fidgety inside of him where he couldn't sleep, and he always made sure that he came back to his purpose. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So Annabelle has said, when your purpose nags you, yep, love that. She's also said, it won't let you sleep. Oh, M. Johnson said it won't let you sleep. And Annabelle says, when you can't bear the pain of regret that changed things for me, chipped away and left purpose. I love that. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So,
Absolutely.
wow, guys, get your pen and paper out. It's a lot of nuggets being dropped today. So, and if I'm looking away, that's because I'm taking notes and I have questions here as well. Okay.
Sure.
So what I thought was interesting is that, so when I met Kevin, I assumed, even though I knew he had mentioned that he wanted to, that speaking was his gift, I thought he had just started. I didn't know you were in Toastmasters for 5 years
Well,
prior
it was
to
actually
that.
8. It was just John and I were in together 5 years, but I did another 3 for me.
So you were already in training.
Already.
Say,
Already.
interesting.
It
So
taught me how to stop doing the uhs and ah. And I used to watch this. When my mind went blank, I would go, ha, 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 ha. I had this weird laugh that would just come out of nowhere because I was stalling for words. And I just thought if I just laughed, I can just kind of take people's mind off of it while the thoughts came to my mind. So Toastmasters taught me how to take verbal crutches, put them out of the way, and just pause, just be.
but the beauty of it is, you know, because sometimes when we see people at their beginning stage, it's as if they just started. But you were already on this journey the whole time. So what that really means to me is that this is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
It is. Absolutely. Absolutely. There were many times I heard do this and I said, I'm not, well, this is me and God. I'm a Christian, so I got a relationship with God. And I hear God say, Kevin, I want you to go out there and do it. And I'm like, I'm not doing all of that. I don't want to be seen. I'm not getting on that stage. I can't do that. And but watch this. But what happened is on occasion when I wasn't trying, then my supervisor or somebody would say, oh my God, that was very inspirational. Can you lead the meeting? I'm going to be 2 hours late. I'm like, dude, hold on. This is your meeting. Or when I wasn't trying, all of a sudden I'm working and my boss says, I want you to work for me. And what I'm going to do is I'll pay somebody to work for you. And I want you to walk around like me, giving everybody else notes. I said, that ain't my job. That's your job. So I began to find that when I started not necessarily thinking about the passion or whatever the gift was, people could see leadership. They heard communication. They saw influence, and the authenticity tend to move people. And they wanted that to happen on a dime, on a dime, on a dime. And so there were years I said, I'm not doing it. I don't want to. And I'm going to be honest, I resigned to just work in healthcare, put my head down, pretend like I didn't see anything, and just keep my mask on and just do that until I went and I met someone who did not.
Mm,
Mm.
thank you. So how many of us out there can resonate with Kevin's story? Would anyone like to share? Annabelle, would you like to share of what yours was and how you were able to move from that? Yes, yes? Okay, I'm reading your lips, sure. Just a minute, it doesn't have to be that long. You're on.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Well, I think the same thing. I've been knowing that I wanted to speak and inspire people for years. And it wasn't until I really did self-development through Lisa Nichols, the Elevate program and the speaking program last year. And even before then, I finally broke my silence of surviving September 11th. And it took so much for me to, when I saw her in the spring and I was like, wow. And just seeing everyone at the conference and I was just like, okay, Annabelle, this is really what you want to do. And then doing the program and then actually sharing the story in front of so many people in November just was my huge breakthrough. And I remember imagining it like, I want to be on that stage. I want to share my story. Mm-hmm. And then to be invited after the Stand and Deliver and working my 3-minute story in like a day or two and trying to refine it. And so it just transformed me. And so sometimes just pushing, that regret, that I was like, there's nothing to be afraid of. I lived it. there's nothing to memorize. There's nothing, you just got to show up and give it all you can. And it just transformed me. And so that really has transformed my life. And now I'm continuing to do that.
Thank you for sharing that. So Kevin, thank you very much. That was great. So now we talked about, you said how you were resisting, right? So you talked about how it came to you, you decide to put a white coat over your purpose. Man, how many of us are putting white coats over our purpose? Oh my gosh. That's a quote. And then you talked about how you got into Toastmasters. So something in general was like, you need to do this. So you started Toastmasters, and then people on your job seems as if they saw the greatness in you. They saw the potential in you, and they were asking you to do leadership things, leadership tasking, leadership attributes. But what were some of the challenges that you incurred while doing that? And at what cost was that for you?
The biggest challenge was me. The biggest challenge was just the thoughts of the past. See, when that happened at 9 years old, the bullying as a kid, hearing all those awful things, love the children today, totally understand kids do the darndest things. And I totally understand now what Father forgives them for they know not what they do. I know what that means now. But back then at 9, I'm like, no. And what I didn't know is this: when you leave a thought unchallenged and you allow that thought to take root and grow, it can begin to create doubts like, what if, or why me, or what if I try, can I succeed? And then that thought that's been left unchallenged, at least for me, it began to create all the memories. Oh, no, Kevin, remember the time when you tried and they said this, anybody? Or you remember when you wanted to do this, but then it came out like that and they were not with you. So when I didn't see crowds with me back then, at 9, I'm thinking, well, who's going to be with me now at this age? Anybody ever have one of those bad things that happen in life and that thought began to bleed all through your life, even into your adulthood? Yeah, exactly. And so when you asked what was a challenge, it was here. It was the mindset. It was me not realizing, I didn't even know the thought was there. And so as I worked on myself, as I went through coaching and got my own MBA, I have an MBA, the traditional sense, but I also have an MBA in all the programs I've invested in. I have an MBA and all the coaches that I have. My coaches have coaches that have coaches. It is just unbelievable. But when I got that MBA, one of the things I truly learned how to do was really look at my story, reframe the story, and then ask a better question of, did it really happen to you? Or how did it happen for you? And now that it's here, what can you do to help somebody else? So as I learned to ask better questions, guess what happened? It was a way of getting that thought that was left unchallenged, and I began to challenge it. No, nothing happened to me. Maybe I needed that at that time, because I began to see, look, even now during this COVID-19, and we're talking about thriving in uncertain times, what I learned now is this: had I not been bullied and isolated as a young person, it was then I learned how to encourage myself when nobody else would. It was then I would say, well, Kevin, nobody else is here, so you got to keep going. And so every time I wanted to quit, I had this internal talk that would keep me moving forward, and even making just A's on tests and just blowing them out the water and being a teacher's pet, but finding creative ways to constantly inspire myself. So then now when I hear people go, well, how are you so consistent? And I don't understand, how do you just keep going and going and going? Well, personally for me, I had to go back and look at, it was over here at 9 when I got that, as I call it, that real life training that I didn't want. I wouldn't wish on nobody, but it actually was the best thing for me. And when I look around the room at all of you, I'm just going to ask you the question: what happened in your life at 9 years old, 12 years old, 20 years old? And look at how life maybe happened, quote, to you, but then ask, how did it happen for you? And then look at where you're today and say, you know what? As a result of this, I am now equipped for that today. That's my story. So I want to invite everybody to consider that option and look at where you are now, and then look at what are some of those things in life that position you to truly be who you are today, and to even evolve and further if you really want to begin to manifest it so we can truly see it on the outside.
So you mentioned something important, which was coaches and mentors. Um, what can you tell us the difference between the coach and the mentor in your world?
Yeah,
Okay.
because in my world, okay, anybody read that book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad? What the rich teach their kids that the middle class and the poor do not. Well, that was John for me. When I first started, I didn't know my head from anything. And so um, when I first got here, I wanted to buy the Jaguar. I wanted to take all my money and go spend. And John was like, that's the problem with the youth. You just want to go drive your Jaguars all around town to show everybody that you made it. What you need to do is put your net worth in the bank and let it make money for you. So my mentor gave me books to read like The Millionaire Next Door, where the average millionaire drives a Toyota Camry, not the Lexus or the Mercedes and all these high polluting cars. Or he had me read different things that would show me just being a regular person, but learning how to pay it forward, plan for it. So now you have a car account and we write checks, or you have different accounts that you set up in advance. So when things like COVID-19 happen, you're already positioned because you already live your life so that you're ready for the famine to come, so to speak. Most times it's feast, but every now and then life presents a famine. So the mentor, he gave me different advice. Um, Once I was looking at a job, I didn't know if they were getting over. It was a mom and pop, so to speak. So I had to ask his advice, like, how would you handle this situation? And he handled it beautifully. And I took his advice and I did what he said, and things worked out as they should. Well, with the coaching was a little different. Again, remember, I had this raw talent of I can open my mouth, things happen, I inspire. I had kids riding on the back of a moped at about 47 miles an hour because I was inspiring them. Oh, just follow me. Come on, let's go. So if I really did something, people would just do anything. Well, they take your raw talent of who you are, then they look at what's possible and give you and stretch you in different ways to take that raw talent and then begin to put skill sets on it. So for people who are speaking, how do you then begin to invite them to play with you, so to speak, add value? How do you invite them to find their highest and best when they're with you? So coaching is a little different because you're working with the raw talent. The mentor helped me make a lot of life decisions along the path so that I won't just drive my net worth at 27.
Oh, I love it. Well, what's interesting is, so the mentor, so in my world in STEM, and you're a pharmacist, so this is, so in my world, a mentor is someone, like if I'm trying to gain a particular skill set in a certain area, my mentor helps me and cultivates me and provide me different avenues and different resources of what it means to grow in that particular area. And I love it. You said a mentor is a long life session. Absolutely. And what I usually find is mentors are usually informal or formal, and they're usually not at a price, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I got introduced into coaching like maybe 5 years ago. I never heard of it in my life. And it was assigned to me as part of a program. And I remember outside of that program, because what I was looking for was how to, from the coaching standpoint, was how to be my authentic self, no matter what, in the workplace, and not to shrink in the limelight. And my coach helped me do that. But they also came at a cost, monetarily cost. That's the difference for me in my world. Is the mentor itself is someone who volunteers, or like, hey, I'll help you get there. And the coaches, which makes sense because I ran track, and I know if I wanted to go into 2021 Olympics right now, if I could ever, it's too late for me. But if I needed to invest in a coach, that would come where I would have to, pretty much monetarily pay them so they can help me in a short time frame, 60, 90, 100, 12, 24 months, so that I can be an expert. And when I go out, I can compete all the way. So I just want to make sure, because I've heard that, people like, what's the difference between a coach? And a lot of people in my area, they've never heard of career coaches or leadership coaches, because we usually use our mentors to do all of that. And it's been a gap. It's the gap in that, because your mentor is only an expert in that area for me, like in a technical area, whereas my coach, they're going to come and make sure that I'm proficient where I can be competitive in this particular area.
And look at what Michelle says. When it costs, there is skin in the game, personal investment with coaching.
Absolutely. Well, you're paying, so you're going to be invested in it, and they hold you accountable as well, right? So But someone says, John says, sure, I remember being jumped by a group of guys and getting beaten up to a response. Learn to fight strong. Personally, I own 2 Jaguars.
But look, purchase much later in life.
Absolutely. But that's the benefit.
That's what he taught me. He
Yeah.
said, Kevin, you need to just hold on to your money till you're about 40, then go get the cool car. Don't do it at 27.
I love it.
At 27, let the money grow, let the money compound. But at 40, now let's go play with what you've done over here at 27. So he was saying you can still have the cool things like I do because I have them. He always let me know he has them, but at what timing do we want to take the money out? And right now at 27, that's not the time. So it was learning how to invest that and then have delayed gratification.
Ooh, delayed gratification. Make sure you guys write that down. Delayed gratification to get where you need to get. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. In addition to that, so we talked about the difference between a coach and a mentor, and you talked about that. What recommendations would you give people if they want to find their purpose or to find out how to own their own brilliance?
Okay, the main thing is this, and I ask everybody the same question. What is that thing that you've always been complimented on that you don't even have to think about, no matter what that is? Some people are really good in sports. Some are great at singing. Some are great at, I don't know, writing papers or leadership. What is that thing they always compliment you on? What is that thing you're just born to do and you knew it like nobody's business? And then from there, look at it, listen to what they say, ask a few more questions, and then have faith. When I first started, especially doing this, I was so nervous, but I kept hearing it over and over again about, oh my God, when you talk, my mind races. When I hear you, I'm inspired to this or inspired to do that. So watch this, guys. I had to borrow other people's faith in what they told me as I began. So I have a verse, it's a Bible verse. Speak those things that be not as though they were. So they were not for me. But I kept saying, Kevin, if they keep telling you this all through life, white people, black people, girls, boys, men, women, children, older people, younger people, stop asking, are you good at it? And just lean into what they're saying and hold on to what they say until you can find belief in your own. And that's the first thing I did. I had to hold on to their faith before I really ran hard. But in the middle of holding on, I was coaching, I was investing, I was studying, I was practicing because it was still raw, but I didn't know what that thing was and how do I shape it into anything. So that's the first thing. If you guys really want to do that, find out what they say about you and then get curious and then go put work behind it and start investing yourself there. Then allow it to grow and go back and ask questions. Do I still like it? Do I need to tweak it? Should I modify or is this good? And then do what's necessary and go back in and work hard at it. And before you know it, it'll start working for you rather than you just working for it. You'll still take classes because I still do. I got a speaking coach. I got a business coach. I even have, I got a prospecting coach. I even have a book coach. I'm writing a book. I got a book coach in Hawaii because I realized there are certain things I'm just not that good at. But if you allow me to run my mouth and just be there, things will come out of me, but other people can help me prop up in areas where I need their help.
Now, have you heard people say, Kevin, I mean, why should I invest in myself? Versus, and when I say invest, I mean like where you're really taking the time out to learn, taking the time out to find a coach, taking the time out to do the work. When people say, well, I don't think I should do that, or I may not want to do that right now. What advice would you give them? Because they're still trying to move forward, right? But they're resisting to do those type of steps.
I hear it all the time. I used to say it back then. Let me tell you what happened. My family went through bankruptcy 4 times. I was terrified. My first time, I thought when I was a kid, I hate to say it, but children shouldn't be in certain situations, but our house was small, so I couldn't help but hear my parents. I used to think when the first bankruptcy, I thought they were going to come and get our money. So I was holding and hoarding my allowance in places so that if something happened, I'd have food for us to eat. And then I kept seeing it. And I'm going, look at these decisions that we're making because this is not working. Boy, I was not happy with that. So I learned in the beginning, I grew up as a hoarder. In fact, I wasn't generous at all. I was just always holding on to the money, thinking something bad was going to happen because that was my experience. And I left that thought unchallenged. Well, when I, again, meeting John and seeing how he lived his life, I saw possibility in different directions. And I saw a man that made great money, but still would spend what it took to go to different conferences so he can invest in his mindset, invest in his passion. I saw him, let me tell you, Rich Dad, I call him Rich Dad. He was, at the time, he went to a comedy show, invited us out because he's really good at talking and chatting. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're a finance guy, CPA, and you're exercising your chops in a comedy place? What? And what I loved about it, he's about 20 years older than me. So at the time, he was probably right at 47, 50 years old, just doing something new. So I saw a man constantly putting himself out there in a different way. And I thought, if he can invest in himself, maybe you need to let go of your purse strings and do it too. So it took me a while. And then one day I talked myself off the ledge and say, okay, you won't go broke if you invest, but you may come out with different skill sets. You won't go broke if you invest, but you may come out with a tool that may actually put the money back. What a novel idea. So the more I release my fear of the money and investing in myself, then the more I began to have fun and get curious about what was in me. And the more I saw that and released it, that's when different people started coming, and I started coaching and creating a membership group and speaking. And here I am today. But I had to first release my fear after I first looked at where is it coming from.
Ooh, you said, where is it coming from? So you went back and searched at the beginning to figure out where that fear come from.
Absolutely.
I love that, because how many of us, I know for me, that was a time when, same thing, my fear was not being worthy. And that's because it's not that no one told me I was unworthy. No one told me I was. And I had to go back and search, where did that come from? And it happened in teenage years of not just being seen. No one saying you're great. No one saying you're amazing. But once I identified that, I now knew what my starting place was. And I was able to now start work towards something different. I love that. I love that. And you know, that I don't think that I really found that out maybe until like 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
4
It
years
happens. We'll build a whole life around fear. We'll build a whole life around a limitation. I built a career on it. I put a white jacket on it, and I walk every day through life, eyes wide shut, knowing that it was something bigger, something greater. But I chose to live lower because I didn't know if I could get past the what if. So I built my lifestyle around it. I bought cars around it. I bought houses. I bought this house and a couple other houses and all kinds of stuff around my fear and limitation, because I was too afraid to look in that mirror and say, what if? What if you were to allow yourself to truly be? What if you allow yourself to truly go and invest in yourself, figure out what's there, and then amplify that? What if you allowed yourself to be seen? What if you did it on a bigger stage? What if you went live and let the world see you? And so it was a lot of what ifs, but it took me a minute to release the fear and then just walk into the possibilities of what if.
I love this. John said, actions build confidence. You can't swim with your feet in the sand.
I know, right?
I love that. Thank you. That's great. That's great. So what's next for you? What's next for Kevin?
Well, you know, the interesting thing was this. Before all this happened with the virus going viral, I was actually positioning myself for a lot of speaking engagements, because I could just see I was here in a company, and I was just kind of stepping down some of the hours so I can have more time for the vision, more time for the speaking. And it was going to be a lot more in person. So now I'm doing a lot more online stuff, but I'm just going to keep teaching online classes like I do now, and actually being on conferences like this, and probably looking at companies and finding out, are they doing meetings via Zoom, and still go that direction as well. But what's next really is mostly just allowing what's in here to come out there and structuring it so more people can come. More people can coach with me. Somebody saw me the other day and say, can we work together? And I don't really do that a lot because I was really looking at one thing. But now that life is here, I realized, why stop and why not help? So even tonight, I have a discovery call with someone, because they have an interview and they were like, how do I package this and put it all together in sound bites very quickly? So I'm learning how to use Zoom and learning how to do different things via technology to still impact people right here from home.
So what would you tell people now who feels limited because they are not face to face with anyone, and they are having to learn how to use technology, how to use Facebook, how to use all of those different platforms in order to still get their message across, and in order for their platform to still continue to grow.
In a word, look at Michelle Johnson. She put down there pivot. You see it in chat?
Mm-hmm.
To truly do that, it's time to pivot. We actually had a class, a pivot to cash class. We talked about how to pivot back and forth between being here and your online audience. So if you want to enroll people right off of Facebook, Instagram, there's a way to pivot back and forth to the audience so they can be with you. When this happened here, I heard the word pivot again, and I said, wow, we're now having to pivot how we live our lives, pivot our mindset, pivot what we tell ourselves. So to really flow in what's happening now, we have to sometimes sit with this, reflect with it, and ask, what will I do differently? If we do nothing, we may just sit there stuck, worried, and nothing happens. But if you allow yourself to pivot and ask the what if, and start looking at how can you take what you have, Adam, where art thou? And then look, I got 2 fish and 5 loaves. How do you take your 2 fish, your 5 loaves, and then multiply it digitally? Uche, I have a course right now. I haven't even launched, but it was so funny. But I had this course I was going to launch, and it was called How to Digitally Connect with the Camera and Monetize from It. So and the thing is, I taught that in person, and people came to the online class. And I'm thinking, I can actually do this too. So it's looking at what we have and positioning it or repositioning for the time that's here, so that we don't feel stagnant, stuck. And if you don't know how, then hit your caboose to somebody who does and ride on with them until you can figure it out on your own.
Very good. Very good.
Look at Joy. Joy, I love you. I see her engagement. She's like, I get
Oh, yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
for Joy.
John says we need to make adjustments to what's happening now. No kidding.
Exactly.
Francesca says, I fear my mission, which is global and truly scary. Okay, so what would you say to Joy? Not Joy, but Francesca. She says she fears her mission is global and is truly scary.
Well, Francesca, I'm right there with you. If it's not scary, it's probably not big enough. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it needs to scare the bejeebies out of us to an extent where, not where we're afraid and won't even touch it, but it kind of brings up little butterflies inside. The what if that you're on this level, what if I stretch to that level? I was actually looking as well saying, I see a lot of people here, but I see how sometimes social media limits us. So I was asking myself, it may be time for me now to align to a bigger platform. So how do I do that? What if I stretch and become more visible? So when Francesca says that, I totally understand and agree. And I invite her as well as me and everyone else. What if we just sat there and the what if is scary and did it anyway? What if nothing happened except for your dreams? What if we got comfortable on a higher level and all of a sudden our muscle went from here to here because now we kind of practice that thing? What if we stretch to a new comfort level and a new zone? So there is no box, there is no comfort zone. It's just me. What if we just play bigger and allow the butterflies to catch up with I'm here. So you need to catch up to me right here. So that's what I see right there. And that's what I tell myself when I'm not sure. Just go anyway. Just go.
Was that good? Yes, yes, everybody? Yes, yes. Put the comments in there. Yes, yes. Now we're going to open up for Q&A. So if you have any questions, make sure you type it in and then I'll unmute you, and then we can have conversations, any questions that you may have for Kevin or myself. Yes, yes, Carly. Yes, yes.
Oh, look what John says. When you go backstage and talk to the talent, you will find they all think they are faking it.
Well, actually, that's true every time. And what's interesting is that when you ask them, well, how did you get here? And what I found out is the majority of them say, well, my vision was this, and then it grew. My goal was never to get here. It just sort of expanded. And I love, John, we're going to have to unmute you because you're just dropping too many. It looks like he's about to type something else. Okay, so John, I have unmuted you. So what advice would you give us? What are you going to say?
I've gone backstage.
Uh-oh.
My physical fitness hero, LaLanne, a million years ago, and discovered he was even shorter than I am, which is a major accomplishment, as Kevin will tell you. As I met this short, loud guy, that would have been me. Is if you're short, no one goes, hooray, another presumptive short person just walked in the room. And I didn't know I was short until someone tapped me on the shoulder when I was a sophomore in high school, because I thought I was going to be a professional basketball player, thinking I was going to grow to be 6 feet tall. It turned out to be 5'6". Now I've shrunk to 5'5". So here's what you're going to find. Almost everybody you talk to, when you really actually chat with them, once you get beyond the Egomaniacs Anonymous thing, is everybody and their dog was asked to either give a speech, do a program, or what have you. Not everybody is blessed with a photographic memory like Kevin is. Almost everywhere Kevin ever went, despite his insecurity, like all the rest of us, they always asked him to be the leader of the band. So I've watched Kevin for about 20 years. Every single job he's ever had, this, oh, would you run this? Oh, would you run that? And I'm thinking, Kevin, this is hilarious to me. And then again, wouldn't the rest of us like to have that knowledge? Me, they always go, can you help me get out of this jam? As a certified public accountant, I mean, 2 and 2 is whatever you want it to be. Boss is what I learned a long time ago. So it's been fun watching Kevin do this, that, and the other thing. A couple of things to take away for sure. Please write this down. The secret of all financial independence is spend less money than you make. Point number 2, when you're running your side hustles, have a separate account for each side hustle. So if you're doing coaching, keep track of what your revenue is from the coaching. Keep track of what your expenses are for that coaching. Now, a couple of years ago, I spent $43,000 on various coaches, one of which was $25,000 for the Genius Network. I got to give a speech in front of them. I was really impressed to get to do that. I also spent about $18,000 a year going to CEG Worldwide to become a better financial advisor, despite being a financial advisor and financially independent for years. Still trying to get better at what you do. You're going to find when you go to a black belt place and study martial arts like I did years ago, you'll find the best people are always practicing and always trying to get better at what we're doing. And you'll find that other people are telling you why they can't do it. And be aware of this other point, and please write this down. Successful people fail more often than failures, because they refuse to go, oh, gee, I'm sorry, that ruined my entire life. Sure, we've all watched our parents have financial reversals. We've all decided to not make the same mistakes that they did, or sadly make the same mistakes that I do. I smoke cigars and have a good drink on a regular basis, which is why both of my children do not smoke or drink, because they responded to that not so amazing habit and learned from it. Now, my son JJ is 40. He works with me. Just the other day, we ordered 2 custom-made suits, one of each, which is not something I recommend doing, even though the prices have dropped. But why did we do that? Because JJ's suits don't fit properly, and this one is going to fit properly. And the mark of a person who's supposed to give financial advice is supposed to look like somebody who's successful. Now, when you're up speaking for people or to people, you're going to find, and this is an embarrassment to me, the most casual messages online seem to be the most effective. There's a guy named Dan Kennedy who gets paid zillions of dollars an hour just to talk to you for 1 hour. It's about $18,500 an hour, no kidding. And you have to fly to Cleveland to talk to him in person. You have to interview just to get a chance to talk to him. So you don't just do that. So what's the point of all that? 1, do keep track of your expenses. 2, when people for me, people have been asking me to count money for them since I could count. So apparently people realize if you hand me money, you're actually gonna get the stack back. And we've all met people that you can't do that. And Kevin's got some horrible stories on that, which I'm not going to share with you on that. So when people ask you to do things, now, much to my surprise, I am naturally funny. This is not a talent I asked for. God knows I thought I was going to be a serious person. But I went to stand-up comedy school to learn how not to step on the laughs, because there is an art to telling jokes. So spend less money than you make. I do believe that Jesus saves, and the rest of us have to learn to invest. I'm the co-founder of a group called Checky Financial, and we do our best to make people as happy at 72 as I am, meaning that you're financially independent. You work just because you want to, not because you have to. And the other part, which is great, which is something a speaker can hardly ever do, and that is you do not have to work with jerks. You can tell people directly, I'm sorry, we're already full up on stupid and rude here, and we just don't hire people like that. And about 3 years ago, we fired all the mind readers in our office because they didn't get it accurate often enough. But I'm a big fan of Kevin, as you can easily tell, and I'm thank my lucky stars to have gotten to meet him years and years ago. And it was worth walking around the lake to meet each other. And now I am lucky enough to get to be mentored some by Kevin, because he learned to do all kinds of fun tricks. And Kevin took a long time to get to be Kevin. Do not let anybody kid you. And whenever you talk to the people after they give their speeches and actually find out their story and get to meet their kids and find out what they're really like at home, as opposed to just that dancing bear stuff that they do, it can be delightful, and it can be a giant pile of compost as well. So you have to separate the wheat from the chaff to find out who is and who ain't worth following. And that's my message.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Actually, that was great information as far as the 3 steps that John identified for us. One thing I learned, my pastor used to tell me this: failure is an event. It is not an identity. So make sure you remember that. We all are going to go through it. It is not who we are. These are things that just happen as well. So Kevin, and before we get off, here's my last and final question for you. Before everyone leaves today, I have you on mute, by the way. What would you like to leave everyone with?
You're worth the investment.
One saying. What would you, one key takeaway, that one call to action, one challenge that you would like for us to leave with?
You're worth the investment in you. There was a time I didn't think I was, and I would keep the money to the side and wouldn't do anything, wouldn't try anything, wouldn't go for it. What I found is once I was really okay with me, I realized I'm worth the investment. And I took that seed and I planted it, and a lot of things have happened as a result. So a lot of people who find themselves holding themselves back and wondering, should I? Take the time you need. But one thing I want people to know, you're worth it. You are definitely worth it. And one of the things I learned is when you really own your brilliance, just be brilliant at it. And the parts that's a mess, in Louisiana, we call it a hot mess. It's okay. That's part of the story. In fact, that's the personality. That's that quirky part that we love about you. That stuff you're trying to hide and clean up and be perfect with. Those imperfections that's what makes you perfect. So you're brilliant, but then you have those other parts that we need to see, because that's what we fall in love with. So for those who sometimes are on the fence, not sure, should I start, should I not, you're worth the investment. And people are waiting on you. So when you take that time, you take that step, every step you take, you'll be surprised how many people will be going, oh my God, I'm so glad. Where have you been all my life? Anybody ever heard that before? Where have you been all my life? So you're worth it. I didn't realize it, but there's a lot of people I met along the way, and a lot of people I've been hearing. Thank God you finally came. So you're worth it.
Oh, thank you for that. I had to do I'm sorry. It got me. So Kevin, thank you. And thank you everyone for attending today. Tomorrow we'll have Dr. Kimberly Hayes. She's going to be talking about crucial conversations and how to have it, especially now during this time. So be sure to register, come back. And Kevin, I thank you. And everyone have a great Tuesday and be safe. Bye.
Yes, take care. Bye-bye.